I'm going to talk to you real quick about staffing. People don't want to work here. I talk to your teachers, I talk to your ex-teachers, and you treat our teachers horribly. You really do. You overload our teachers with all kinds of to-dos that are not teaching. You want to know why the scores are so bad? The teachers are so busy having to enter data so that you can sell it to Rhythm that they don't have time to teach. And I'm actually getting teachers that tell me their heart is broken because they have parents that are looking to them saying, you're going to educate my child, you're going to do this, and thank you, and I appreciate you, and here's your Christmas gift, and here's all these gifts. And she says she feels horrible because she is not going to be able to teach those kids. The scores are coming in, they're horrible, they're so embarrassing. If layoffs do not come, firing does not come from that presentation, that says so much to the community. This problem has been going on for years. This is not a new problem. This is not a COVID problem. And if you all want to sit around and pat each other on the back and good job, I like you, great. But you're not going to do anything that's going to change anything for our students. You guys are pedal to the metal with everything that is not working. It's not difficult to figure out how to teach kids how to read. I'm 43 years old. My school taught me how to read. Period. Can we go back to that? All of you guys were taught the exact same way. Why can't we go back to what was working instead of constantly flipping curriculum on teachers and buying more curriculum from your vendors that are going to donate to you, that are going to give you tickets to sporting events, all of the shady things that happen? Why don't you just teach them to read? Knock it off with all the politics. Knock it off with all of the things that do not improve our students' outcomes. I don't understand why you're doing that unless it's on purpose. Is this the purpose, dumbing down of America? Because that's what it absolutely seems like. And if people are not fired for those scores, Dr. Ramsey, be bold. Cut some heads off. Do something. People are looking to you. Parents are looking to you. Do something. Make some changes. If you keep everything the same as Scribner and it's just rubber stamp, absolutely nothing is going to change, and it needs to change. Fort Worth ISD is number 4 in the nation for most lost students. Why are parents leaving? Scores like that. That's why they're leaving, and they're going to continue to leave. You don't need a $1.2 million advertising budget. Just teach people's children. That's your job. And knock it off with all these wraparound services. Thank you.
April Johnston.
I might be a little red. That was a little embarrassing to sit and watch that.
Was that you?
That was me. So I showed you that video to show you how to talk to your school board and where you're the most effective in talking to your school board. If you notice, I wasn't reading anything. I was just talking and having a conversation with these people. Even though they don't vote the way that I like on the school board or in politics, they are just people. They're humans, and I wanted to talk to them like that. Our scores were really bad in Fort Worth ISD. Only 19% of our third graders are going to be on grade level for reading, so it actually is really bad in Fort Worth with what we have going on. So I just showed you that to show you how to talk to them and how to really get your message across to these people, because they're not understanding the gravity of what's going on across our entire state, across our country, with children literally not being able to read. I don't know what y'all's scores are here in Lubbock. I don't know what's going on in your ISD. Maybe you guys can tell me what's going on. But in Fort Worth, they're absolutely not teaching our kids how to read, and that is nothing worse than that. And so I'm with Families Engaged for Effective Education. And so did I just click here? The down button? Okay. And so our mission statement is to educate parents, citizens, lawmakers, to the damage of the Texas Education Code via legislation that dilutes families' values, quality of education, and our constitutional republic. Our organization, we speak at the State Board of Education, which is in Austin. We call that SBOE. They have been, the other ladies in the organization are awesome. As she said earlier, I am a homeschool mom. They have been going down and testifying constantly in the Senate, the House, SBOE, working their fannies off for all of us in Texas fighting for education. And so if you guys are ever looking for another organization besides True Texas Project, give us a look because we run completely on donations. So my name's Hollie Plemons, and I'm the mom of 3, and I say taxpayer in Fort Worth ISD. You heard my speech that I said that. I'm branding myself and constantly reminding my school board that I'm a parent and that I'm a taxpayer and that they are using my money because so many of our elected officials have forgotten who they work for. I've been married to my husband for over 25 years. His name's Larry Don, like Billy Bob, because we're from Texas and from Fort Worth. I'm a boy mom. I've got 3 boys. My oldest is 19, my middle is about to be 16, and my youngest is about to be 10. And I do homeschool the last 2. This is our first go round with these 2 kids. It's been interesting. I'm a proud stay-at-home mom for almost 20 years, and I'm a parent and advocate with Families Engaged. And I'm in Fort Worth. I also went to a small little ISD for a short period of time, and I go to SBOE and the Austin and all of that as well. So I'm going to talk to you guys about tax hike. So I reached out to someone in Lubbock earlier that said that you guys just passed a bond. And as me and my friend Carrie were driving down here, we looked up how much it passed by. And it wasn't a landslide, but well over 50%. And so if you guys don't know, or you can educate people on every single time that there's a bond, that's a tax increase. Every single time. So when they tell you that it's not a tax increase, and well, your ballot's going to tell you it is a tax increase, but when they tell you that it's not a tax increase, they are banking that on you paying off a current bond debt. And then your taxes are not gonna go up, but they're also not gonna go down and you pay back this other one. It's gonna stay the same or it's going to increase depending on what INS rate you guys get. And so whenever the bonds are coming through, sometimes, yeah, they're going to need things, but you have to look at their budget. Do they have the money someplace else? Are they being wasteful with your money? Probably 9.9 times out of 10, they're being wasteful with your money, and they could cut back in other places instead of coming to you and asking for more. So whenever the next time we have a TRE come up or another bond election, try to educate people and just let them know this is a tax increase. You are going to be paying for this. And we've got some parents in Godly, Texas. It's less than 7,000 students, and they're getting ready to pass almost $1 billion bond. So I'm in Fort Worth, and they were trying to pass a $1.5 billion bond, and we had 72,000 kids. So Godly's being crazy, and they're gonna pay $729 a square foot in Godly. And I was like, who's doing this construction? Neiman Marcus? Like, my goodness, that's so expensive. And then their debt per student, and you can look all of this stuff up online. In Godly, they're gonna be putting $300,000 of debt per student. And you might, well, what is the debt per student? The next highest is a little over 100,000. And so these local school districts and city entities, even in small conservative areas, are absolutely being nuts. Did it go away? Okay. And they're not being respectful of your money. So please talk to people. Reach out to people. If you have a bond coming up, we have subject matter experts in Families Engaged that can help you guys defeat a bond through block walking, door hanging, posting on Facebook. Like I said, Fort Worth, you guys, everybody knows where Fort Worth is. It's a huge city. $1,200 is all that we had, and since they call them stupid little yellow signs because they were yellow, and so we love to call them our stupid little yellow signs. It looks similar to that, but it was about Fort Worth. And that's all the money that we had. We were fighting an advertising budget of $100,000. And while we didn't kill all of the bonds, we killed 3. There was 4. The largest one did pass. And so whenever you have a superintendent that is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and you're like, how can we get this superintendent out? Kill a bond. And they're gone. Every single time, because that is the taxpayer's way of signaling to your school board, we do not trust this man that's running this ISD, and they want to pass bonds. So they're gonna get that superintendent out of there really quick.
And we only had about 15 people.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of us. Her and I stood in the rain. It was actually really cold, encouraging people to vote no. We were really passionate about vote no on these bonds, and so we came within 57 votes.
Wow.
Of killing all 4 of them, which would have been so exciting, but I'm still excited that we killed 3, because that's the first time in over 25 years that a bond ever failed in Plemons. And I say 25 years because that's as far back as we could go. I guess I should have switched it over. Defeating a bond. Expose the truth relative to increased tax capacity. A new bond is new debt, and that means more taxes are required to pay off the debt over a longer span of time. New bonds often mean another 25 to 30 years of debt. Door-knocking campaigns are the best way to defeat added debt associated with new bonds, and taxpayers are on the hook for more debt, even when the tax rate does not increase. Then we're gonna move over to, well, I know we said we'd do questions at the end, but I'm just gonna stop. Does anybody have any questions about bonds and taxes? Because I know some people forget as I keep going. What you got?
Well, we had one here, and there was a strong push
Yeah.
against it. And we were not only pushing the city council and everything, it was on road bond, you know? And we even had to show how much we are in debt and how this will add to it. But the media, TV, social media, the newspapers here, all of them push the bond, push it. And so, those kind of forces, you know, and I don't know why some of the people I know were saying, yeah, the county commissioners, we need this, or the city council, and we got rid of a lot of the city council, but there were still some that were left on, oh, we need this. And it has to be something more.
Oh, of why they're pushing it?
Huh?
Of why the newspaper would be pushing the
Yeah,
bond?
yeah,
So they get donations from the same people that are going to benefit off of the bond. Architecture firms, construction firms, land developers, housing developers, all of that, they're gonna get the exact same donations to run ads in the local paper. So, it's all very incestuous of why that happens, and, you know, who is the one that was paying to push our bond? Architects, contractors, it was all of that, and they're getting their people out to vote, so we just have to be louder as citizens in posting on Facebook. Y'all saw my name up here, Hollie, Plemons, put a P in front of lemons. I post everything public on Facebook because I have nothing to hide, and so lots of people will get on my page. They don't like or react or comment or anything like that, but they're seeing the information, and I'm hearing it back from people that I don't even know that are saying they saw it, and so it just takes one person putting that out there, sharing it next door, local neighborhood groups, any place that you can. And when I started saying that I had these signs, does anybody want a sign? Because we can't talk about politics on my local neighborhood page. I wasn't talking about politics, I was selling a sign.
Right.
And so they couldn't take it down. And so that's how I got to push that message out there. Just be creative. Okay, public education problems. Do you guys, anybody in here in Lubbock ISD? Nobody? I was really wanting to know if you guys are having any issues here in your school district, but.
We're in Cooper.
You're in Cooper? They have problems?
I think so.
You think so? Okay. In the larger cities, we are going to have more of the wokeism, all the stuff that you see on the news, but the conservative little small districts, they have lots of issues too, because they don't know what issues are being pushed to them from the state, what they should stay away from. Probably most of you have heard of NASB, the National Association of School Board, that called all parents that go to school board meetings terrorists. And Texas recently dropped NASB, but don't get too excited about Texas. California did it first, and then we followed California's lead, so I'm not very happy about that. So then we have TASB, Texas Association of School Boards, and they train all of our school boards. And they train them to vote as a team of 8 or a team of 10, depending on how your board and superintendent is set up. And so when they all go out and they're sitting there and they all vote in lockstep together. And sometimes in my school district, they do not talk and they don't discuss anything in public. They do it all in executive session. So whenever people come up for re-election, how do you know who to vote for? Because they've never said anything and they all vote together. That's TASB, and TASB tells them to do that. So whenever you do get a new city council person or a new school board person, make sure that you develop a relationship with that elected official where they're going to use you as an educational or a resource, and you're gonna be an expert in something, just someone that they can talk to. And so I really do try to have relationships with a lot of my elected officials, whether they like it or not. They're gonna have a relationship with me because they're represented, they're elected to represent me. And so that's very, very, very important. And then talking to your school board members of don't listen to TASB, because TASB is what's going to come in and change your school board. I talked earlier that I was in a small little school district for part of this year. TASB ran that school board, and they were known throughout the nation. They're the only school district in the state of Texas that didn't close down during the lockdown, and they never masked the kids. It was Peaster ISD, and that superintendent defied the governor, and they got rid of him. And now they've brought in an equity pushing superintendent in this teeny tiny little town of 1,600 kids, and I kind of like told you so. You guys didn't want to listen to me about the superintendent, and so now here you are having to deal with an equity pusher. So please just really, really stay on your school board members to make sure that they're staying actually conservative, and they're not just voting R and checking that red box and saying this is what I am. Look at their votes. Are they pushing, and I'll talk about it as well, but are they pushing social emotional learning? Are they pushing equity? Are they pushing programs that are not focused on education, which is what they're being paid to do, is just educate our kids, leave all the social justice out of it. And so it really takes somebody just being active and present and having that conversation with these school board members because they think they're doing good. It's TASB, it's Texas Association of School Boards. They're telling them what to do, and they're leading them astray. So since you guys are a small conservative area, I really wanted to stress that to you to please, stay in contact with those school board members. Y'all could all read that. Does anybody need me to read it? Oh, yes.
You said there was a organization that was, that didn't shut down during COVID?
It was a school district, Peaster ISD.
What?
Peaster. Put a P in front of Easter. Peaster.
Easter?
Peaster.
Easter?
Peaster.
Okay, and that they were influencing other, school boards?
I'm sorry, okay, 1 minute. In Peaster, they didn't shut down, like when Abbott forced the mask mandate on all of us,
Right,
they didn't do it. And so
Oh.
they closed down for like 2 weeks because, what was going on. And then they opened the gyms back up and they told all of the kids to come back to the school at any time that they wanted to.
all right,
Because they knew how detrimental this was gonna be for the kids.
right,
And then they started school right on time in August, no mask,
really?
which in Fort Worth, we did have to wear a mask until the very last day.
Oh, wow.
And so he was a great superintendent. His name's Lance Johnson, and I moved out there for him and then turned around and came back.
Is he still there?
No, they got rid of him
Oh,
because he wouldn't push a bond.
oh, okay.
They're trying to push $100 million bond, and the last bond that they pushed in Peaster was $3 million. And now they're going for $100 million, and they have 1,600 kids.
Oh,
And so
wow.
he said, that's ridiculous. We already have the highest interest and sinking rate, which is what pays your bonds back, in all of the county. And so they got rid of him, so
So
that.
our parents just went like along with it when y'all got, when they got rid of the superintendent? And had the new superintendent pushing, cause I'm in a small district too, and we moved for the same reasons you did.
They broke into, I didn't buy a house out there, I couldn't get out there fast enough, so my husband bought me a travel trailer and put me in an RV lot, and it worked out awesome. They broke into my travel trailer to, spy on me. The people
What?
did, breaking and entering, crime. They broke into it to take photographs, and they emailed them to the principal, to say that I didn't live there. I didn't have to, and I never said I did. And so they did that, and then the sheriff said, that I was making it up, that it wasn't true. The principal never said that to me. There were no emails, it was never said.
There you go.
And, the town fought back because it's a small town. And so who's going to be doing the siding work on that building? A local dad. Who's gonna do the concrete work? A local dad. So they are, the biggest employer in Peaster is Peaster ISD. And that is in Fort Worth, we're the 3rd or 4th largest employer in the city. And so whenever they have, the bonds coming through, that's how people get money, is by getting those jobs. And so that's why they're wanting to push it. So those people fought against me because they have their hands out. and now all of the kids are going to suffer, and it doesn't do anybody any good to say told you so, but I told you so. This was going to happen, and now they're all having to deal with it, and they, you know, little bitty district, they had 30 kids pull out of the school district within 3 days of the superintendent being gone. That's huge, to have 30 kids leave, that was huge. So, yes, they did just allow it to happen.
Is
Yeah.
your group, involved in restructure of how schools are funded?
And how what?
Like how schools are funded, are you all involved in that?
No, we're not going down there and fighting, like, are you talking about the per pupil, the
Yeah,
funding that's
just
going
how
on
it's
down in
connected.
Austin?
Just how it's connected to the property tax, are you all involved in that at all, as far as,
About changing how schools are funded.
Oh, changing how schools
We
are
wanna get rid
funded?
of property tax.
No, we do, I don't think that we have any bills on how they're funded, more so than what True Texas Project is doing in eliminating, property taxes. So we're mainly focusing on fixing the problems that we currently have, because they're not gonna get rid of public education overnight, and they're not going to eliminate property taxes overnight, and so we're trying to focus on the dangers that are currently happening to our children with social emotional learning and with technology. Those are the two that we are the most vocal about, and so that's really what we do, but not like the actual funding of doing that. But if you ever wanna get involved and you wanna take that up and be our subject matter expert, we're always looking for more. Okay, solutions, empowering parents by helping them understand their rights. So about 18 months ago, I was just a stay-at-home mom. I wasn't involved in politics. I'd never gone to a school board meeting. And I was an absolute, just nobody in the political world. And in 18 months, I've become a force to be reckoned with in my city. They do not like it when they see me come into a public meeting, and my friend here can attest to that. So you don't have to have any special skills just to stay at home mom. I don't have a college degree, just a high school diploma, and a loud mouth and willing to talk. And so that's all you have to go in and just know your rights. And I really started looking into the law, education code, and digging into that, and it was like, they're breaking the law, like they can't do this. And I do like to read and research stuff. Anybody can do it, it's actually not hard if you like to read. Returning true control of education to parents. The schools have forgotten they are our children. They are not their children. They do not get to say what our children, what their values need to be. And that's what they're so huge on right now, is pushing emotions, thoughts, feelings, and values. That's my job. And I didn't give it up. And just because other parents aren't doing it doesn't mean that I lose my right to it. So we as parents need to advocate for that these are our children, and we get to call the shots. Teach parents how to use their rights to guide and direct their child's heart, mind, and soul, and then modeling behavior of family unity. How did we get here? You can see his name right there. Obama was one of the ones that hurt us. I'm sure he's a big fan in this room. With FERPA, that's the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. That was children's private data can be collected without consent in the name of research. So whenever I'm talking about data mining, surveys, this is what I'm talking about. So we did have FERPA that protected our children. So anything that they put online in a survey, it was supposed to go just to your school district. And if some of you guys are parents out here and your kids get surveys, and you may think this is only going to my school district. It is not. It is being sold to vendors, and sometimes it's being sold to the Department of Education, depending on who's running the survey, and then the Department of Education actually sells it to China, and because they're studying us and studying what our kids are thinking. And so when we had FERPA, that protected us, where the school districts were not allowed to share our children's private information. Their ID number, their name, their birth date, their sex, their age, things like that, that they're sharing with vendors. Well, then this came in with Obama, and he completely obliterated FERPA. And he said that if it's an educational vendor, then they have the right to have that data. So now the kids are entering that, they're entering the survey, and the survey company says, well, I'm an educational vendor, so I need to know what your favorite sexual position is for children. And that's literal questions that they do ask. This binder right here is full of survey questions. They ask them about how many times they do heroin. They ask them how many people they've had sex with. They ask these children absolutely horrific questions. And one of those is coming from the CDC. So it's a nationwide survey. And now they're saying that they can give that information over to these vendors. So one of the vendors' names is Panorama. Panorama is co-owned by Zan Tanner. Zan Tanner is married to Merrick Garland, our AG's daughter. Remember the AG that said that we're terrorists? And his son-in-law sells CRT curriculum. Well, he's also the co-owner in Panorama. And so Panorama gets that data, and then they can sell it, and they make money off of it. And our children are a huge commodity. There's so much money in data, and I never even dreamed of this, and then this has kind of become my little baby, is the data mining. And then in 2015, Every Student Succeeds Act replaced NCLB and rebranded Common Core state standards as college and career readiness. So if any of you have been paying attention to your school, and they're constantly talking about college and career readiness. What about academics? What about teaching them to think on their own? What about teaching them to read? That's pretty important. In 2015, the Texas legislation passes HB 1842 in the 84th, and Districts of Innovation, that's called DOI, appeared, and that is uncertified teachers exceeds class size regulations, manipulative attendance to prepare for virtual ed. So my district is a district of innovation. My tiny little district of Peaster, it was also a district of innovation. It can be used for good, and it can be used for bad. So whenever we have our trade programs, if you're a welder, and you and I were just talking about that earlier, so you're not going to find a certified teacher that went through the 4-year college and then got their teaching degree, and then also decided to be a welder, and then decided to come back and teach. So they have alt certificates that they put underneath the DOI so that they can come in and teach those trades. That's good. Where it's not good is that they're also letting people that have not been able to pass their teaching test, they're letting them be teachers with alt certificates and throwing them under the DOI. They're also, you have your shack, and that is the main thing that people know about the shack is that they pick your sex ed curriculum. And so some districts are throwing their shack under their DOI so that they don't have to follow the rules or the laws, actually, that it's the parents that have to be notified of what the actual sex ed is. We have to be given an opportunity to look at it. So you have to be very, very careful with the DOIs of what they're doing. Are they gonna use them for good, or are they gonna use them for bad? Most of the time it's for bad. And then in 2019, Paul Ryan, who is the sponsor, I'm like standing away from it, having a tough time seeing it. Congress passed Foundation for Evidence-Based Policymaking Act, creates a federal database containing data from every federal agency on every citizen. And then in 2019, the Texas Ledge passed HB 1026, which ushered in character trait education, SEL, social emotional learning. And so that's where it is now a law in school that the teachers have to teach our children about character traits. So whenever they're little, you say keep your hands and feet to yourself. Nothing wrong with that, right? It's as if they're grooming them. They start very easy with what they're telling these children, and then it gets worse and worse and worse. And then it's little kindergarten girl's in the bathroom. She's in her girls' room, and a 5th grade boy walks in, and she immediately tenses up because this is my space. This is a girl's space. You should not be in here. And then the school says, well, you were not being very compassionate. You were not being inclusive. And is taking away that natural defense that we have when we know this is our space, you shouldn't be here. And so they're manipulating what values are and in putting that on our children. And it happens very, very quick. My kids were only in public education for 4 years before I pulled them out and then took them to a different school and moved them all around. But it was only 4 years. And 3 years into that, my kids called me a racist. And I didn't say anything about anybody's color, so I had no idea why they just called me that. And I thought, well, that's weird. And I moved on with my life. And 2020 happened. And I started listening to what these kids were doing on their computers and started paying attention to this equity and found equity assignments for my children in their emails. and seeing that they're pushing this on my kids, and my kids are coming back and telling me things that are different. And there's hope. It took me 1 year to pull my senior back. I was 100% positive he was not gonna like me, come home, he was gonna go to college, we were never gonna see him again, he was done with us. And it took me 1 year, and he was mad at me for several of those months, and then pulled him back, and now I'm happy to report he posts conservative Republican things on social media, and I'm so proud of him. I take screenshots of it, and he's very loud and proud about his beliefs. His first day of college, he sent me a picture of every club that he had joined, and
Wow.
it was the pro-life club, it was the conservative club, and he sent me this picture. He's like, look mom, I joined all these clubs. So there's hope, you can pull your kids back from it. Okay, what is social emotional learning or character traits education? CASEL, which is the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, has defined social and emotional learning, SEL, as the process through which children and adults understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsive decisions. Sounds good, right? It's not.
No.
It's not good at all. And so the five core, what is that word, Carrie? Thank you. I didn't make this PowerPoint. Self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. Responsible to who?
Yeah.
To you and your values, or to me and mine? Because everybody has different ones. And social emotional learning is the absolute bloodline for everything that's wrong in our schools. And it starts out very simple. They will have coloring sheets that are about kindness. And they color about this is kind because she shared half of her cookie. And parents get used to that in elementary school. And then they're done. It's fine, I'm not worried about it. And then it just gets more and more and more. And again, if anybody wants to see the social emotional learning surveys they gave my high schoolers, they're in here and they're super wild. The question that bothered me the most was, how much do you matter to others? What if they feel they don't? What if they woke up and they had a really bad day? What if mom was hungover from the night before? What if they missed the bus? They had no lunch, they had no clean clothes. Wherever these children are at, what happened in their day? And then they make it to school, that's their safe place, and they get there and they're asked that question and they think, nobody cares about me. And they break down. Well, we've just dumped that on that teacher that's not a trained psychologist or therapist, and the teachers don't even know what the questions are because the school doesn't tell them, and they break down. And so that's just like, it seems like a very easy question of how much do you matter to others, but you have to think about where these kids are, and think about when you were a teenager and you broke up with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, it was horrible, it was the end of the world, and you went to school the next day and you're like, I don't matter to anybody. And it gets the kids just thinking about that, and they shouldn't be asked these psychological questions outside of being in a psychologist's office. In 2020, CASEL changed the ideological character of SEL to align with critical race theory. This has led to increased criticism and concern from parents. SEL encourages schools to ask students sensitive questions about their moods, beliefs, family, culture, and sexuality. It promotes a holistic, whole child through which children can comprehend their family and friend relationships. Some of these activities are similar to the practice of therapy, which should be alarming. Already went through all of that, and then you can see up here on the graph of where they are actually saying to where our children are supposed to be. And you see right there, we're right out there, families. We're all the way out there. The schools come first, the classrooms come first, and families. We're supposed to be the core of what our children are drawn to, not the schools, not their classrooms, not their communities, to parents. Some of CASEL supporters are the Gates Foundation and the Zuckerberg Initiative. So everybody knows Bill Gates, not good. Everybody knows Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook, not good. And they are extremely involved in social emotional learning with CASEL. Data elements for computer retrieval, surveys, Chromebook, logins, pass surveys. A pass survey is another name for a survey. Rhythm is one, I'll show you a slide for that in a second. And SEL is a communist move by our government to take the place of the family and alter our children's attitudes, value, and beliefs to align with the UN SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. And if you have never looked over the Marxist agenda, there's about 50, 60 different steps, and you can literally go through it and you can start checking them off. Done, 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 that we've already done that. And the social credit system that they have in China, Rhythm was modeled after that. And let's see, where are we? Marxist theory of capitalism is seriously flawed, obviously. We all need to be socially equal. SCL is based on this theory. In an interview found on YouTube from 2016, Education Commissioner Mike Morath, who is still our commissioner and was appointed by Abbott, is quoted as wanting to implement testing standards on soft skills, non-cognitive skills, and social skills, things like empathy, grit, determination, enthusiasm, perseverance, gratitude, and social intelligence. SEL is psychological grooming mechanism used to open up our children to Marxism.
Is he still
The commissioner,
Morath?
Mike Morath,
Is
yes,
he still?
he is. And he is an ed tech guy, that's his big thing. So if you've seen in our schools all this push for constant technology, that's because he's an ed tech guy. He taught for 6 weeks in schools, and then that was it. That's the only time of ever teaching, and now he is our commissioner. And he's constantly pushing horrible curriculum that is all ed tech based, because that is his background, and that's what he sees as the wave of the future for our children. Our children are not going to get to pick their careers, and mommy and daddy one day, I'm gonna be a doctor, and mommy and daddy say, well, of course you are, whatever you want to be. They are purposely programming our children for the workforce. And the workforce is coming to our elected officials and saying, you know, we need more manufacturing jobs, we need this and that. They don't want our children to have the American dream, where they do not have to have a blue collar job if they don't want to, where they can't decide what they wanna be. The schools are wanting to push that, you know, just like in China. Technology, so screen time amongst young children is shown to affect young children's development. And I will let you read all of that. Everybody knows that when you take your kids to the pediatrician, one of the first questions they ask you is, how much screen time is your child getting? And when you see the little 2-year-olds in the store and they're on their mom's iPhone, like it absolutely kills me, because they're so zoned in on it, instead of saying, you know, T is for Triscuit, as they're walking down, which is what I used to do when I took my kids to the grocery store. So it just kills me to see these babies on these devices. The saddest thing was a friend of mine who's a teacher. She was walking through the kindergarten hall, and she thought the kindergartners were outside playing, and they were not. They were all in their classroom, and they had headphones on, and they were all in front of devices, and they were taking assessments. And they were in kindergarten. Kindergarten should be Play-Doh and Giggles and crayons and singing and books and all of those wonderful things of, you know, keep your hands to yourself. And that's not what's happening in our schools. They're immediately zoning them in on zombies, and it does change something in our children's brains. And if they play video games as well, their brain gets conditioned to that constant flashing of the video games, and then they get in front of a computer, and now it's time to learn, and their brain can't switch into that. And so we're wondering why we're having all these behavioral problems. ADD is through the roof. Kids on medicine is through the roof, and it all comes back to technology. We have a stack of evidence about this big that we pass out to legislators, to SBOE members, trying to get them to push back on technology. We do have a bill that is currently down in Austin right now, and we're praying and crossing our fingers, and it looks like it's probably going to get the support it needs to pass, and that would ban technology in K through 5. We originally asked K through 8, they kicked us down to K through 5, so we're gonna take what we can get and just pray that happens. So you guys be praying for that particular bill on technology. And so then here's less tech for littles, and if you guys wanna scan that for more info, and that's SB 2141 and HB 5104. You guys probably know, but if you don't, SB stands for Senate Bill, HB stands for House. And so this goes over everything that is in that bill that we have. And then vote no on public school vouchers, ESA, school choice. And so this is normally a very conservative push, because they want the vouchers. We are against the vouchers because we see them for what they actually are. And so we have been pushing that. The voucher bill that is the most likely to pass would be SB 8. And it has already passed the Senate, but then the House came in and had an amendment to where we have this billions of dollars in surplus, and some of you have probably heard about it. They're saying that they're gonna use it to buy down our property taxes. Oh no, they have a better idea for it now. It's not for everybody. It's just going to be for people that are going to take that ESA, which is only $8,000. I don't know how much all's private schools are here in Fort Worth. They're 30 grand. You're going nowhere with an $8,000 voucher. And they, if you take that money, it's gonna come from that surplus. Well, I'm a homeschooler, and so in SB8, homeschoolers are not included. We don't wanna be included either. And so I would not get any of that buyback that I would be getting back if they use that surplus for buying down our property taxes. So an actual Democrat, Harrow, came in and had an amendment so that they cannot use that surplus for vouchers. So that was actually a huge win for everybody, even though some people are very upset because they want the vouchers and they don't understand where they come from. They come from UNESCO, from the United Nations 2030 agenda, and it's for communism, socialism, all of that. This is where vouchers are coming from, and the person that's pushing vouchers is Corey DeAngelis. He's an atheist, and he works for UNESCO. So he is distancing himself from that and saying he doesn't, he does. And it's basically a real estate deal is what's going on with these vouchers, and it's not about actually educating our kids. It is a tax break for the rich. 95% of children will not leave public school. So the answer is always, we have to fix public school. We don't just create another arm of the government and call it vouchers. They made such a mess right here. Why am I gonna trust them over here to do the right thing? And so I'm not. So that's why we are against vouchers. And it's been very interesting down at the Capitol. I was not there this week, but the rest of my group was. And the people that are changing their mind on vouchers, of actually looking at what is there. And I was talking earlier with you about SB8. It has a horrible rider in there about lawsuits. And so that one really sparked my interest because that's how I got started. The governor said no more masks. My superintendent said you have to wear a mask. I called the school. I said I've got 3 medical exemptions. I had an allergist, a pulmonologist, and my pediatrician. And they weren't woo-woo doctors. They were just regular doctors. And they said nope. And I said no. He's a severe asthmatic. He turned blue at school. They do not want him wearing a mask. They're afraid it's gonna kill him. And they said, well, then you can homeschool. And I said, oh no, public school is for all. You can't tell me that I have to do that. And she said, well, no exemptions. And I said, well, I'm gonna sue you. And I hung up the phone, and my husband's like, with whose money are you gonna sue them with? That's almost $1 billion a year business. And I said, details, baby, I'll work it out. And I did. And so that's how I met my friend here, Carrie, and she was one of my co-defendants on that lawsuit. So that was our co-plaintiff, sorry, on that lawsuit. And so there was 4 of us. And we went to court, and we got a temporary restraining order. And the very first thing our school district did was they kicked us out and put us into the Second Court of Appeals because they said that we did not file a grievance. And a grievance is the actual legal process that you have to go through with your school before you're allowed to sue them. But ours was an emergency. They did this on a Wednesday night and school started on Monday. Grievance process takes several months. I didn't have time to wait.
Yeah.
I needed something on Monday. So luckily the Second Court of Appeals, even though it's very expensive to get kicked up to the Second Court, said that we actually had standing and we didn't have to file that grievance. And then go through a whole year, we settled, they paid for all of our legal expenses, we got everything we asked for on the first day, and they wasted anywhere from $500,000 to $750,000 fighting us in court. So that's important. I spent $40,000, or we did, we fundraised for it. And so we spent 40 compared to their, let's say just $500,000. That's a big difference, right?
Yeah.
Same court case, but they have an endless budget and they can hire as many attorneys as they want to for $1,000, $2,000 an hour. Ours is $425 an hour. And I mean, we paid 40 grand, that's a lot of money for a lawsuit for 12 months. In SB8, we lose that right. Well, we don't lose it, but they sure do mess it up quite a bit. If you sue your school district and you lose, you have to reimburse your school district for the expenses. So tell me, you have a problem with your school district, and you're like, that's it. I filed a grievance, I've talked to everybody, I have done everything, you're not following the law. And you sue them, and you get a bad judge, because it happens. In our case, we were the only school district in the state of Texas that fought back against, the superintendent forcing the mask mandate, and our children never had to wear a mask. The other ones, they drug them out forever. Nobody got the same, level of quick resolve that we did. We had a judge, guess what he hated? Masks. So it worked out very well for us. We had a little angel in the courthouse putting us in his court. And so that was very lucky for us, but what if we'd gotten a different judge? What if they would've said that GA 38 is a law? And that was what Abbott said, that you had to wear a mask was GA 38. What if they had said that? And we lost. And now I've gotta pay the $40,000, and then were we gonna be on the hook for the $500,000 to pay the district back? I would have had a lot more to think about. I would probably not have sued the school. And so that's taking away, all of our parental rights of what we can do if we have to then turn around and pay this giant entity that has an endless budget. So SB 8 is garbage, you guys praise it, it doesn't pass. And then I'm gonna open it up to any questions from you guys, if anybody has anything. I think it was done.
So, does that SBA go for private schools as well?
Yes, it's, the ESAs, they
So
give
you
you.
can't sue the private school or the public school,
Mm-mm.
whoever accepts that money?
Mhm.
Wow.
Cause those are government strings. Yes, ma'am?
So if the private schools accept money, cause we were in grad school last year, if they accept the vouchers, then, or however that works in private, with that, and a transgender applies, they have, even though it's against Christian values, and you have to, you know, sign the moral statement when you start at a Christian private school. They have to hire, like, aren't they required to hire like transgenders or
Well,
certain?
Yeah,
Yes.
that would be equal, equal employment opportunity. Did I say that right? EEOC? Yeah. Yeah, that they have to do that. I mean, you can't, just because somebody's transgender, you can't say they can't work there. You are allowed if it is, you're hiring a priest and a Baptist preacher comes in, well, they're not qualified, so you don't have to hire them, but you have to hire them. And with the ESAs that are possibly going to be coming in, and I'm really praying that they don't, and I'm really hopeful, really hopeful that they're not. And they've been pushing this for so many years, so it will be a huge win if we really push it back after all they've put into it. They're going to have the accountability standards, so most people that go to private schools, you don't want your kid taking the STAR. And so if you take the ESA, you have to take the STAR. And so anytime you take government money, who's in control of it? You or the government? The government.
What do you think about, you're gonna put stars on computer?
They did put the STAR on the computer,
Yeah.
and every single school district, had the ability to say, we are not one-to-one on devices. And so that means that every single student doesn't have a computer. And they could get the paper test, but they had to ask for them by a specific date. Little bitty tiny school, Peaster, they do not have one-to-one on devices. It's one of the reasons I love the school. The kids had books, they had paper, they had pencils, and they did not ask for the paper. So they instead ushered in one-to-one devices out in Peaster, and they're going to put these kids on that. So the STAR starts in 3rd grade, and most kids are pretty handy, you know, on your phone, or if you have an iPad or a computer. Mine's not. We don't have an iPad. He's never been on my computer. And I don't let him have my phone. That's my phone. You're not old enough for a phone. So if I had him in public school right now in 3rd grade, and I didn't opt him out at the STAR, which I would, and he had to take that, he's gonna bomb. Because he's not used to working on a device, and he's gonna scroll. And if you have a child that is used to HP, or a Dell computer and is not used to Apple, and that's what we have in Fort Worth ISD, is we all have Apple, that's a huge learning curve.
Yeah, it is.
And so they're going to be putting that on our kids right now. I expect for all STAR scores throughout the entire state to absolutely tank. I expect them to be horrible across the board. And every single school district, when I talk to you about the District of Innovation, if they do not want to do the STAR, throw it under your District of Innovation, you don't have to take it. They have the ability to do all of this. Now they say, oh boo-hoo, the state did this, oh boo-hoo, Abbott. No, you have ability, you have local control, and you can take care of these issues. They're just choosing not to. And any parent that is upset about their kid having to take the STAR online, opt them out. Opt them out. They're gonna give you an absolute headache of opting your kid out. They're gonna tell you your kid can't take electives, they're gonna have to go to tutoring, they're gonna get all kinds of lies. Absolutely none of it's true. If anybody has somebody that needs to opt out of STAR, reach out to me, I'll plug you into this Facebook group. I just spent a couple of hours on the Facebook group, learned how to do it, opted my kid out, and was armed with enough information to say, oh, no, that's cute. You're not gonna do it this way. This is actually what you're going to do. And I was able to successfully opt my middle child out of the STAR. By the time I realized the STAR was bad, my oldest was already done with it.
I asked, my school district about that, if, we could, if my child could be exempt from that test, and they said no, and they said, that they had one other parent that withdrew their child from school and then returned the following week after the test was over.
And all of that doesn't have to happen.
Yeah.
Whose kid was it? Your kid?
No, it wasn't mine, but I thought about doing that.
No, I'm saying, but whose child is it? Is it the school's child?
Yeah.
Or was it that parent's child? That school cannot tell me what I have to do with my child when I say I do not want them taking the test. And you as a parent, you don't get an opportunity to review the STAR before it's given. Now you can review last year's STAR, go review it. There's a lot of very racist questions in there about math. Well, if Obama got so many votes here and Trump got this, why are you talking about that? And then they'll put in, racist, CRT, social emotional learning, equity type things into the test. And they're going for values, and it's just a huge data mine of the STAR. It's absolutely pointless. Schools hate it, teachers hate it, everybody hates it. Why do we still have it? Because they make millions and millions of dollars. How do you get rid of the STAR? Opt out. And get every single person in your classroom. Start getting every single person just opt out. When it gets to high school, it gets a little bit harder, but it's still doable. Yes, ma'am.
So my son, if he wants to do, he's my middle schooler, if he wants to be in honors classes when he starts 7th grade next year, he has to score high enough on the STAR test, so if I
No, he
opt him
doesn't.
out, he cannot do honors.
They cannot do that to him. They literally don't know the laws. And so you think sometimes with your superintendent or administration making these giant salaries that they know the law. They do not. They absolutely do not. And if it's called Texans Against STAR, Texans Take Action Against STAR is the Facebook group. And the guy's name is Scott Plasek, P-L-A-S-E-C, and he makes this page. And just go in and don't ask any questions or they're gonna get on you. You cannot join the page and then ask a question, they want you to read. And so they have like pin posts at the top and scroll through them where it says start here and just read all of that. It's gonna take you probably 3 or 4 hours and then you print the stuff off, but they cannot punish your child because you opt your child out of the STAR. They threaten all kinds of things, but they can't hold your child back from the STAR, from honors classes because of the STAR.
So I was reading the statutes and codes, and so I have one homeschooler and one in public school, and then I have a 4-year-old dad wants him to start public school. So I was reading through the statutes and codes, and they're always like, we need your birth certificate, your social security number, your immunizations and all that. And after reading through the codes, I realized, everyone usually just goes with the flow and does whatever you're told to do.
Right.
So I actually enrolled 2 of my children, even though he's not in school anymore, public school, but I enrolled them without social security cards, without birth certificates, and exempt from all vaccines.
I do get exempt from vaccines too.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether your kid has the vaccines or not, it's none of their business.
Right.
So they're going to tell you, well, the nurse wants to know if there's a smallpox outbreak so that they can contact you because your child's not vaccinated. I wanna know anyways. I wanna know if they're vaccinated. I wanna know if there's a smallpox outbreak. So solve that, I just don't turn anything. I turn in the exemption form, they're free. You order them from the state, you get it notarized, most time your school will notarize it, and you just slide it in. You're gonna get some side eye, you're gonna get some looks, it doesn't matter. They're your kids, and you're the one that's in control of that, and you don't need to be giving all of this personal information about your children over to people that you don't know. And it's very, very sad because I grew up trusting my school, and my parents trusted the school, and that's kind of what we were all conditioned to do, is to trust our schools, right? They're the hub of our community. And teachers are wonderful, let's support our teachers, it's teacher week. All of the things that they've been pushing on us for years to break down our natural guard of, what did you just say? Like, I just heard you say so-and-so to Susie Q, and I don't like what you just said to Susie Q. I don't think you should be talking to kids that way, and parents won't do that. And I know because I'm the parent that does, and would get blackballed at all the schools, and I just walked in like, I owned the place because I did, I was a taxpayer, and it was totally fine to be there. I wasn't there to make friends or to be liked, I was there to be an advocate for my children, because that's, God gave them to me, and told me, I'm trusting you with these children. And so I take that job very, very seriously, and I would speak up. And so it doesn't win me a lot of favor with the schools or the principals, I don't care. Eventually they come around, because I am the stay-at-home mom that when you need extra glue sticks, I'm your girl. So then they get over it and decide it's okay, and then they realize I'm not so bad, I just want you to be kind to all children, I want you to do your job. Okay, yes, Mark?
Okay, the formula for opting out, you were saying something.
The opting out of the STAR?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was just gonna write down where you can get the information.
Do you remember Texans Take Action Against STAR is a Facebook group, and STAR is STAAR.
AAR.
Yep.
Texas.
And the guy who runs it is Scott Placek, Placaec, and if I spell that wrong,
Scott?
yeah, don't eat
What's
me
the
alive.
last name?
Placek, Plaec,
PLAC.
Plaec,
ET.
EC, C.
Oh, CT.
You were
So-
right, Texans take action against STAR.
So I was gonna ask
Take
you,
action.
so one of, I was reading the student handbook, of our school, and I'm really, very protective of our privacy and our
Mhm.
information, that's why I don't give socials or anything, even for school. And I was reading the handbook, and it said you only have, by the 10th day of the day that school starts, you have to have a written, declaration or letter, whatever, to the, principal, saying that they cannot share, that you don't want your students' information in a directory or shared with, affiliates.
Mm-hmm.
But you only have 10 days, so if you pass the 10 days, which I did, cause I didn't see that fast enough, and I thought, well, who are they to dictate, well, I only get 10 days,
They're
So,
probably saying because of putting together the directory.
yeah,
They're not putting together the directory in 10 days as soon as
Yeah.
school starts. Their hair is on fire for the first 10 days.
yeah,
So I'm sure that they could work with you on that. They do have these funny little timelines in schools when you file a grievance. If you say that my child cannot take a survey, and then they give your child a survey, you have 10 days from the date that you first knew, and they're going to tell you when you first knew, not you tell them. They like to tell you when you first knew.
Yeah.
You only have 10 days to file that grievance, and you have to file a grievance so that you can sue, and it's just the legal process that you have to go through. And, it's just smoke and mirrors. You're not meant to win. Over 100 different grievances have recently been filed in the state of Texas, through families engaged, and we have won 0. Because parents never win, we're set up to fail, and it doesn't matter, we're not trying to win. You get 10 minutes to talk to your board. I get 2 minutes to 3 minutes, twice a month to talk to my board, and I get 10 whole minutes that they have to listen to me. So whenever I file a grievance, I get to talk to them, and I can say, you illegally surveyed my kid, and I'm super mad about that, and y'all shouldn't have done that, and by the way, now I'm gonna talk about this that has nothing to do with that, and you can do that. And they just have to sit there and listen. They actually are by law have to stop, look, and listen. So, that's a lot of fun to do, and you get a great video and an audio of that, and then you can explain to parents what's going on. I spent my time during my grievance explaining what happened with the surveys, why I don't like the surveys, what the contracts are saying, so that parents at home can be like, that mom is always so mad about all these different things, and go, what did she say? They can do what? And they started listening to that and picking up on it, and then all kinds of news articles were going wild about the surveys, because I pleaded my case well during that 10 minutes, so that taxpayers could actually listen to me. 'Cause they may not find me on Facebook, they may not be on Facebook, but they're watching that public meeting. And now they've been able to listen to what the actual issue is, because I got a little bit more than 2 to 3 minutes to talk about it. And I just get to specifically talk about whatever I want. and that part is golden. And, I've lost every single grievance in Fort Worth ISD, and then they make changes after they deny my grievance, so basically I win. And, so it's worked out very well. All right, anybody else? No?
Well, I'll say one more thing.
Okay.
So I don't know if this is the same for everybody, but, well, my kids weren't in public school during COVID, but, my oldest was in school prior to COVID for a little while. And I remember him getting homework sent home, and so I kinda knew what he was learning from week to week. And now, they don't let us know at all what they're learning, and they, have some sort of new policy where no homework is sent home. Like, we don't know, there's an anti-homework policy, so we do not know what they're learning. I've asked for a curriculum or a syllabus, and, they're like, we don't do that in elementary, and if you have any questions of
They
what
don't
we're.
have a syllabus or curriculum?
Well, they said you could look at the TEACS website,
No.
but they don't
No.
have anything that they can supply to me to let me know from week to week to week, cause my oldest one had a little bit of a learning disability, kind of. And so I wanted to go over the material with him 1 to 2 weeks prior to in-class instruction, so that he would, get it 2 times. But they were like, we don't do that, so I ended up pulling him back out of public school because, it takes them a few times to go over things.
Well, they're not going to tell you, the ability to get a jump on what they're teaching. It's a very rough outline is what they're going to show you.
They told
And
me
it will
to look at
just,
these.
it'll just be a couple of words of, we're gonna learn about the continents, then we're gonna learn about all the different oceans. They're gonna have things like that in there, but viewing the actual curriculum and getting to see the teacher's resources, you have a right that is already on the books in Austin, that you can view the curriculum at any time that you want to. You do not have to file an open records request, which some people call FOIA, but that's actually federal. And, you just walk in and you say, I wanna view this curriculum, and they have to make it available to you.
Yeah, they told me to just look at TEACS.
No, they can't do that. I mean, they try, they do try to do that, but if you come back with them on the law, and you can just Google a Texas Education Code, which would be TEC, and you can go in there and you can say right to review curriculum, and you'll come up immediately with that code, and then you could just print it off and say, well, actually, in education code, it says right here that I have a right to inspect curriculum, and I have a right to look at lesson plans, and so then they'll provide them for you. You just have to show them the law, and then they'll do it. Okay, anybody else? Yes?
I'm trying to remember, but it was like, some, parents were coming against the school board for some god-awful reason. I mean, they were horrible. And it was just common sense. And then they found out the school board was getting money from another source to promote what they were promoting. I mean, it wasn't government.
Yeah.
Is that, have you run into anything like that?
Of course,
Okay.
of course, vendors.
Huh?
Vendors.
Vendors, that's the
Vendors.
word.
The vendors donate to the school board trustees, for their campaigns for reelection, which then makes them more willing to vote yes for whatever it is you're doing. In our school district in Fort Worth, we have a law firm, and it's called Linebarger and Associates, and they collect our delinquent taxes. So when you can't afford to pay your taxes, they're the ones that come after you and take your home. And so they donate to each one of our school board trustees, and then the school board trustees voted unanimously for the one law firm to collect those delinquent taxes. That's pay to play. And, so,
Anyway, yeah.
yeah, and there's all kinds of other things. That's extremely common. That's local government, that's big government, state government, all of it. They all do that. I mean, we all know that Big Pharma gives
Yes.
money to these politicians, and that's why we had, the COVID vaccine and all the different things going. If you've seen some of the very woke, health curriculum and sex ed curriculum, one of them is called Health Smart, and that's what we had. Who was behind it? The CDC, the WHO, and Pfizer. And I was looking over one of the health.
And the Gates Foundation.
Oh yeah, and the Gates Foundation. I was looking over one of the lessons for high school, and it said if you have a mental health issue, here's the people that you should go talk to. Guess who was never listed? Parents. Guess who they said to trust? The government. They literally told the kids to trust the government. And it was like, really? Like, what about parents? And warning the children not to listen to alternative news sources.
Oh,
And
really?
yes, and so in the times that we live right now, that was very alarming to me to see that in there. And I even turned around to the director of curriculum and was like, what are you doing? Like, it's saying trust the government. Like, you can't be putting this in here. What about parents? Why are parents not even in here? And then, and then it's funded by Pfizer. So, there you go. All right, anybody else? Okay, well then that's it. Thank you guys for having me.